Hello everyone. Today I wanted to make a video about how I found out I had Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. And I'll explain exactly what that is throughout this and what its symptoms are and how I finally got diagnosed with it. Before I get started, there will be a link in the About section. If you click on that, there's a family that from my church that their little 7-year-old boy is really sick right now. They're had to go away from the homes and take time off from work. Plus, insurance doesn't cover everything. And they are trying to find out what's causing it. And there's going to be more information on the page if you click on the link that I'm going to include in there. In any way that they can be helped, that would be grateful, because they're both losing time at work, and also medical bills and stuff are extremely difficult. So once again, in that About section, there will be a link there. I appreciate it. Even prayers will help so much. So even if you give some prayers, that would be great. But anyway, back to what I wanted to talk about. So how I found out I had Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. So first I'll get into a little bit of the story. So I came down with liver disease back in 2022. Now, liver disease isn't a part of Ehlers Danlos Syndrome, but it's how I got to find out that I had it. So I was diagnosed with liver disease, with liver cirrhosis, end stage, back in 2022. And I also had a couple what's called inguinal hernias. It's like in the groin area. And that happened a while before I even went in. So I knew that you could get some hernias from having, liver disease. You can get like the belly button type hernia, which I have, but that is common with that. But I always had these other hernias that couldn't get fixed or anything, and I always thought that was a little bit odd. And also, my whole life I'd been in some sort of pain. Like my whole body would hurt from. It was like somebody took a pain blanket of like hot pain and just dropped it on my shoulders, and it just radiated down my shoulders, down my back, all the way into my fingertips. And this went on for years. And I remember, starting in my teens, and then I remember going to doctor after doctor after doctor, but the rheumatologist were always like, "Oh, there's nothing there. You're too young for this," and all that stuff, and they'd send me away. Finally, I came to the point where I thought that everyone is in some sort of pain every day, and you just deal with it. And this continued on for years and years. Some days were worse than others. Hot showers made it worse. I would feel even worse getting out of a hot shower. My arm would get tired real easy. I would if I threw something with my arm, it would pop my elbow out and it would hurt like crazy. Also, I was always like very bendy. Like I can bend things in ways that I shouldn't be able to bend them. But the reason why I pushed to find out what else was going on, then I started having problems swallowing food. Food would get stuck, and I'd have to fight with it to go down. So I'd have to drink a bunch of water every time I ate something. Almost everything got stuck. And then I went into the GI about 2 years ago, and they did a bunch of tests on me, and they diagnosed it as dysphagia, which is a type of, it means you can't swallow food, basically. So that went on, nothing really happened of it. And I went in for an EGD, and they put injected Botox into the muscles to make them calm. Because what was happening is my muscles in my esophagus are contracting and holding the food. So they would do the Botox in there, and then they also stretched the esophagus. And this still kept going on. So then I had they did it again. And then finally, about a year ago, I finally got to a specialist that deals in this kind of situation. And they had me redo the test that I already did a year prior, which was fine. And one of the tests they did by accident. That they did wrong. The person didn't obviously know how to do it. It's called a barium swallow time test. anyway, they did it wrong. So it was weird. So because of that mess up, I suffered for a whole nother year trying to eat because the procedure showed something wrong. That doesn't always happen. That just happened to me. And I'm sure things like that have happened to a lot of people, especially if they have chronic illness. So then I got thinking, I'm going, this makes no sense, because this isn't something that happens when you have liver disease. I mean, you can still swallow food. Now you may get a hiatal hernia or something like that may cause issues, but I don't have one of those. And, you know, I was kind of baffled. So I started doing my own research. And I'm like, with all these different things I've had my whole life, you know, with the pain and my shoulders pop in and out, you know, that can flex in funny ways. My knees will pop like when I'm walking. Sometimes it'll move out of joint and it'll catch. And before I had a lot of muscle mass. So the muscle mass actually strengthened it and actually held everything tighter. But when I got sick, I lost all my muscles. So now my joints are kind of floating around. But anyway, I wound up finding information about this disorder called Hypermobile Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. And I actually found out off a video that was online, and I'm like, what could this possibly, I'm looking at it like, yep, this could cause stomach issues. I'm going, okay, all the pain I got, that explains it. The inguinal hernias is common. And then there's other signs of Ehlers Danlos syndrome, like your scars will be indented as opposed to not indented. And you may wind up with things that look like stretch marks in weird places that you shouldn't have them. I've got a bunch of those. It's what it is your skin is got collagen in it, and the connective tissue is that collagen, and there's different types of collagen in your body. So when I figured this out, and I noticed all of these similarities, and then I saw this thing called the Brighton scale, which is how they diagnose you for hypermobile Ehlers Danlos syndrome. And there's 14 types of Ehlers Danlos syndrome. So when I found out this information, lucky enough, I have a really good doctor that listens to me. My regular doctor, she's amazing. She listens to me. She, actually, if I say that this works or this works, she doesn't push me to it. We figure it out. And she calls me medically complicated, but that's because I am. So I talked to her about it, and she finally got me the referral. And I went to a geneticist, which is who would diagnose out your Ehlers Danlos. And I did pass with flying colors that I had it. There's different things like ways you can bend your hands. They ask you if your knees bend backwards more than, I think it's like 30 degrees, like your elbows, like your arms will go down. They'll move more backwards than forwards. So, I mean, there's a bunch of other signs for it too. I will leave a link also for the Ehlers Danlos National Institute as well, because that's where you can find the Brighton scale. And that's where you can kind of do it at home and see if any of that happens to you. And there's also a questionnaire part that asks different questions. It is generally a hereditary disease. It can sit dormant, and it happens more in females than males, but it does happen to males, obviously. But it is more common in females. And usually it comes accompanied with a couple things. A lot of times POTS, which is, it affects the heart. Basically, you stand up and your heart starts racing. I used to have that, but because my portal tension has restricted the blood flow, that really doesn't happen anymore. So one disease helps another, I guess. And then there's a mast cell dysfunction too, where you can get an allergic reaction randomly from anything. It's the antihistamine on your skins, and it releases too much of this, the antihistamines, and it winds up attacking the skin, and then you wind up like with just itchy red and different stuff like that, which I have had a few times. But for me, the way it affected me is my joints and my internal organs as well, because you do have different types of connective tissue. You have connective tissue internally, you have connective tissue on the outer layer of skin, you have different connective tissues. You have tissues that are collagen inside some of these organs that are different. So they do a genetic test generally when you go into those, which I found out I don't have any of the other 14 or the other 13. Those ones are a little more dangerous. You can actually read about those on the Ehlers Danlos website. I will link as well. But it was a journey, and getting an answer finally gave me, I wouldn't say hope, but it gave me peace of mind, because all these things that were going on above and past the liver disease, I knew there had to be something else going on. And sometimes you have to do the research for yourself. Sometimes you have to take a pen and paper, write down every symptom you're having and when you have it and when it happens, so that you have a detailed record to show that doctor, this is what's going on and this is when it happened. You know, that's always a good idea to do as well. Because I don't know if you, like me, got in front of a doctor and forgot exactly what you were going to say, because all of a sudden you're like, what was I going to talk about today? And then as soon as you walk out that front door, you go, oh, I've done it before too. So definitely try to write down what's going on and if you're experiencing these things. Ehlers Danlos doesn't always affect the stomach. It can affect lots of different things in different ways. Some people just get it lightly to where it just affects the joints. But it can also affect your vocal cords. It can affect a lot of things as well. So, but by finding out, that's also why it's harder for them to get me to go to sleep, because the way I metabolize these things, like pain medicines and stuff like that, they don't really work with me. They never have. They have to give a little more than twice the amount of anesthesia, I've been told, to keep me under, because I metabolize it completely different because of the Ehlers Danlos syndrome. You know, which is really interesting how that works. So, but if you're going through these body pains all the time, and this can show up in your teens and all the way through later in age, there's a lot of people that didn't get diagnosed until they were 40, like me. You know, a lot of people, you know, didn't, and then they found out that their children have it or what have you and stuff like that. There's a lot of videos on TikTok about Ehlers Danlos Syndrome as well. If that's something that, you know, check out, you can just type in EDS and you will find a plethora of videos of people that talk about it and that have it. So, but anyway, I want to thank you for watching this video. It's pretty much a basic Ehlers Danlos Syndrome video. Just kind of wanted to give everyone a little information of what this is, why I have the hose, and hopefully that helps someone get diagnosed with it if it's something they're dealing with, because it can affect, like I said, surgeries and things like that. So it's important to know. But anyway, I want to thank everyone for watching. Have a wonderful and blessed day.